Hello, everyone. I'm Namrata. I'm a neuroscientist by training, research fellow at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Before I introduce my mentee, I just want to say I'm glad I'm not in this cohort of all these aspiring neuroscientists and neurosurgeons. I'm done. I cannot compete with you all. I'm here to introduce my mentee, Ngawang. It's like two connection. First thing on the science part, I'll say when she came to me, she was well prepared. What she want to do, she knew all about this neurodevelopmental disorder and everything. So I didn't have to tell her what she wanted to do. She came up with an idea. Second thing was like she already is from the area that is not well explored. So I'm from Nepal and she's from Tibet. So there was an instant connection. And cherry on the top was we both shared the same birth date, June 3rd. So there was like, although by training I'm a neuroscientist, I should not be saying that, but we were meant to be like brought up together. So her project is about like when you face some challenges in the early childhood, how it's gonna process, like how this is gonna change your neural processing and all that. And I work in the field of pediatric somatosensory field. So it was like kind of coming together and see how she gonna do that. So she wanted to do IRB. We went through some hiccup, but she is still not demotivated. She is going to pursue that after this final presentation. But she went to her friends and family and she collected some data. So I'm extremely proud of her and I cannot wait for her to present her data. Ngawang, all yours.
Hi, I'm Ngawang D, and I'm currently a 10th grader at the Marymount School of New York, and I'm so excited to be sharing my research project today. Next slide, please. So my mentor, Namrata, is a research fellow at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. She currently works in the field of somatosensory, focusing on NF1 and epigenetic regulations leading to adulthood. She was born in Nepal, and some of her hobbies include driving, yoga, listening to AC/DC, and watching Avengers movies. Next slide, please. So one of the biggest things that make me me is my first generation identity. You can press the arrow, but it's not next slide. It's a little image. So it has empowered me and inspired me in so many different ways, understanding how many sacrifices, both emotionally and physically, sorry, both emotionally and physically, my mom had to make for me, inspires me and makes me work. Sorry, when I rehearsed this, I was not like tearing up. I'm sorry. It's empowered me and inspired me to work hard, thinking about all the sacrifices she had to go through. And I kind of internalized all the sacrifice and continue to be inspired. And so I understood that there was always something that was underlining my extra stress and this academic pressure to succeed. And that was my first generation identity. Next slide, please. So I read a lot of articles, like another arrow motion, sorry, there's a lot of transitions in this. And so through biomed, I was able to convey what I learned. So in early adolescence, specifically as a first generation student, there are more increased feelings of anxiety, academic pressure, as well as imposter syndrome. And I learned more about how that shifts and changes the body, specifically with epigenetics. Epigenetics are how your behavior and environment can cause changes that affect how your genes work without changing the DNA sequence itself. So you can specifically see this in DNA methylation. Specifically, with the epigenetic of NR3C1, the gene that codes all GR, which is a glucocorticoid. I always have hard time with these words. I'm sorry. Glucocorticoid receptors, a protein crucial for regulating various psychological processes. So with this genome change, as shown there, in early adulthood, it causes emotional dysregulation as well as the risk of neurodevelopmental anomalies. Some of these are anxiety as well as BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder is a pattern of emotional dysregulation causing an unstable sense of identity, difficulty to create interpersonal relationships, as well as impulsiveness. The results have conveyed how people with reduced synaptic density have more borderline personality disorder and smaller brain volume in regions important for memory and emotional regulation. It shows the connection with generational trauma, as BPD, a result of it, is having the less space to emotionally regulate your emotions, which then further causes more continuous cycle. So I realized how little there was conversation about this between first generation students. And so next slide, please. So doing all this research, it just deepened my interest and spotlighted how little conversation there was specifically about first generation students as well as their stress. And so I decided to title my project Born into Struggle: How First Gen Stress Shapes Young's Minds. So as Dr. Namrata introduced, I was starting my IRB process, and the IRB is an internal review board, and it makes sure that all questions are ethical and safe for all human subjects. So it's a really long process, and unfortunately in the time span, I wasn't able to complete that, but trust me, it will be. And so I decided to send out a questionnaire to some of my first generation friends. I wanted to show how behind all the research that I learned, that there's actually people behind these words on the screen or words on paper, and to humanize it a little bit more, and but also to actively make change and give them a voice. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned briefly before, from my research, I learned how stress, anxiety, imposter syndrome, and academic pressure are feelings all inclined as a first generation student. So I had 21 responses from my friends, and 21 out of 21 participants answered yes to feeling academic pressure to succeed due to their first generation identity. 20 out of 21 participants said yes to feeling imposter syndrome due to their first generation identity, and 19 out of 21 responses said yes to feeling stress and anxiety due to their first generation identity. I never realized how, not alone I was in these feelings, and that made me realize how, once again, how little conversation there was about this. So I decided to ask, if you answered yes to any of the questions on the previous page, which were these emotions, do you often talk about it? To which 17 out of 21 people responded no. Next slide, please. This then led me to realize and understand how the lack of provided space for open discussions as well as specific help for first generation students discourage these vital discussions. And so, using this opportunity to discuss with my peers, I asked, how can organizations and institutions become more welcoming and aid first generation students? And the responses, I have to say, were extremely sad, but some of them include have staff who can relay events that are personally significant because they are first generation students and make experiences more inclusive, raw, and welcoming, as well as keeping it friendly and don't make students feel like it's just another appointment, as well as provide opportunities of learning experience towards first generation students on their lineage and identity. And last but not least, I think many first generation students could agree it's hard to navigate a life that their parents couldn't have the opportunity to go through. And made most of their opportunities, it'd be helpful for organizations to offer counseling. Next slide, please. Overwhelmed with your responses, my passion has not stayed the same, but it has grown even more. This isn't just a project to me or a checklist to just check off. It means so much to me, and that's why I really hope to complete the IRB. One of my main motivators throughout this project was to show how this is an actual thing, the stress and the increased pressure that first generation students feel. But I also wanted to give a voice to first generation students who really haven't been able to speak up about this, which is why I hope to complete my IRB and post a blog and my research about this. I want to continue to spread light on this topic that's not always talked about and validate and help first generation students to get allocated resources they need, both in academic spaces, but also at home. Next slide, please. So 2 to 3 highlights, Namrata kind of hinted at this, but I genuinely feel like it was all meant to be. Both of our names start with an N, funny, and we both share the same birthday, June 3rd, and she's from Nepal, I'm from Tibet, and usually as a Tibetan student, I feel like there's not much known about my culture and as well as just what's happening, but she came with open arms and she just knew so much about it, and it just made me feel so seen and it helped me so much. And so we always meet every Saturday early in the mornings. And early in the mornings, your brain's a little fatigued and it just gets a little rough sometimes. So we open up with a riddle every single time. And I fail every single one of them because they're science related and my brain just can't think that fast in the mornings. But 2 to 3 lessons I learned was borderline personality symptoms that I was not aware of, but also see so much in real life. As well as I polished my ways on reading scientific articles and improved on my presentation skills, specifically having less words on the slides, but having an impactful meaning when giving the presentation. And once again, one of my biggest challenges was my IRB, but I'm so passionate about it and I'm so excited to continue it. Next slide, please. Sorry. And I want to say thank you both to the IRB committee, Mr. Getz, who is our organization person at Aaron. I'm sorry, I'm just looking back at him. All the people at Magic and specifically Dr. Namrata, I really appreciate it so much. You have helped me so much in so many ways, and it has helped me both heal, but also recognize this issue. And I could not have done it without you. Thank you so much. And thank you to my mom and my family. But yeah, thank you.
Fantastic job, Ngawang.
Thank you.
What questions do we have virtually for her?
Hi, this is Ira. What a personal connection to your project. I love that. And to your mentor. Um, I understand you have challenges about IRB, but I know you know that there's a reason for the IRB. What it allow you to do is reach out to a broad audience. The one question I had is the questionnaire that you sent to your peers, was there like gender difference or were there other differences that you can talk about
So
among your
actually,
respondents?
oh, sorry. Yeah, so I also asked them about their background just to be sure, and their age ranged from 13 to 21 plus. And so I specifically asked because I go to Tibetan school every Sunday, and so I just was like just was able to meet a bunch of like my friends from there, and so I asked them a lot. So their culture, they all are basic, they're all Tibetan. So that was like my main like survey background as well as like
Great.
information.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.